Hello best learners, this is Mustafa here at Learn with the Best, and today we're going to be discussing Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. First, I'm going to define this law for you, and then we're going to go over a short story from my past, followed by a short fable from the book, and then we'll end with an analysis on the devouring mother. Here is the law. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied upon, the more freedom you have. Make people depend on you for their happiness and their prosperity, and you have absolutely nothing to fear. Never teach them enough so that they can do without you. Okay, this law is honestly a bit dark, but it's something that you do need to understand. It's kind of like a loaded gun. It can be used for good or evil, or it can just sit there in your repertoire of tools ready to use when you deem appropriate. This is indeed a very broad and all-encompassing law that can be used in so many different situations. Personally, I like to use this law at work, going above and beyond in the workplace, so that if it's ever brought up in the minds of those above me that I can be replaced, it would be a tough pill for them to swallow. I love to make my employers dependent upon me, or at least as much as is possible within a given circumstance. So once upon a time, I held a position in customs compliance as an auditor. I had climbed up the ladder over several years, and at that point, I had around 10 years of experience under my belt. So I was one of the top employees at this particular workplace. And at this place, right, our team of auditors were auditing around 50 customers. And one customer was a very difficult customer to audit. It was a super intricate and very involved customer. And only two of us at our company knew how to thoroughly audit this customer. And those two people were my boss and me. So whenever my boss was out of the office, I would cover this customer. And when I would be out of the office, my boss would be covering. In order to train someone new to audit this customer, we would have had to gone through a lot of work and months and months and months of training. And honestly, neither one of us wanted to do this kind of training with someone new. My boss would always talk about how she's going to train someone new so that more people know how to do this customer. But she never really got around to doing it because it really was that much of a pain. So now it's been about 3 years into this job for me, and I've got this itch to travel. You know, at the time I wanted to go on a multi-country adventure over a 3-month period. I wanted to go because I was feeling a major burnout in my life. I had been slogging away in the corporate world for such a long time. I was getting older, and I felt like I was sort of just getting into a comfortable groove. And I hate comfort. I believe that comfort is the enemy of growth. So I asked my boss if I could take 3 months off work unpaid. So she asked me why, and I gave her my reasons. I told her that I was feeling burnt out, and I really wanted to just go out and travel. So she told me that she needed to think about it, and so she thought about it, and she came back with a no. At this point, I knew that she was dependent upon me, because only the two of us were able to handle that one big customer. So I waited a few weeks, and I decided that I would sort of bluff with a resignation letter. And so in my letter, I thanked her for being a great manager and for giving me this great opportunity to work with her in the company. I told her that as much as I loved working as an auditor, I did have other passions outside of work that I wanted to pursue. And so I hit send and the letter was off. So my boss read it and she came back asking me that if she were to give me 3 months off of work unpaid, then would I stay at the company? And that was exactly what I had wanted. So I said yes. I took my 3 months off to travel and then I returned and everything went back to normal. Now, mind you, if she would have accepted my resignation, then that would have been okay too. Because at that point, I had saved up enough FU money to last me a few years. So it didn't really matter either way. But honestly, I did like the job and I was glad to have been able to come back to it. Now, let's go over an old fable from the book. But before we do that, I need your help with YouTube's algorithm. Please smash that thumbs up button below, because if you don't, then YouTube is simply not going to show this video to anyone else. Please also subscribe and click on that bell icon, because if you don't, then again, YouTube won't let you know when a new video is uploaded. And if you want to transform yourself from a lamb to a lion, then check out my course pinned in the top comment below. I will teach you the tools that you need for success, but you have to actually step up and put in the work on yourself. This course is not for everyone, because the majority of the population are sheep, but for those very few of us who do want to walk the path of a lion, this is the course for you. Once upon a time, there were 2 horses carrying 2 loads. Henry the horse was doing well carrying his load, but Charlie the horse was slow and he was lazy, so all the men began to start piling Charlie's load onto Henry. Now Charlie was having a great time because he was carrying less and less, and he said to Henry,
"Go ahead and toil and sweat. The more you try, the more you have to suffer."
After they all reached the tavern, the owner of both horses said, "Why should I fodder 2 horses when Henry can carry everything? I should give Henry all of the food and I should cut Charlie's throat. At least this way I can still have Charlie's hide." And so that's exactly what he did. Alright, now I want to look at this law from a couple of different angles. How does this law operate in a family dynamic? Well, in order to keep another person dependent upon you, it requires some sort of an enmeshment. You have to really get up in there to a certain degree with another person. And so in a traditional family structure, person A may be dependent upon person B because person B provides a good living for their entire family, while person B may be dependent upon person A because person A cooks fresh meals for their entire family every single day. Now this is an example of a family working together and making things easier for one another, and this is a sort of a good enmeshment. But of course, there are scenarios where unhealthy enmeshment can take place, and that brings us to the dark side of this law. Let's focus on devouring mothers. Children are dependent upon their parents because children cannot operate on their own in the world without having first gone through 18 or so years of life. Let's look at the epidemic of single mothers in America. When a family breaks up, 80% of the time the children end up with their mother. The mother emotionally enmeshes with her child. She does everything for that child because that child is the center of her world, and that child emotionally takes the place of her ex-husband or boyfriend or whatever. The mother will do everything that she possibly can to keep her child dependent upon her, because if that child is allowed to grow up and become his or her own person, then the mother loses control of that child. And that is the scariest thought in the world for these devouring mothers. You see, as the child gets older, the mother will continue to infantilize her child. She will do everything she possibly can for that child, blurring boundaries and trying to keep that child as her baby forever. These mothers will never ever teach their children enough so that they can do without her. This is how you end up with a 40-year-old man or woman still living with their mothers. And there is an amazing episode of South Park about this whole dynamic. The episode is called The Dog Whisperer, if you want to check it out. And in this episode, Cartman is this little kid who really is completely vile and disobedient. And so his mother brings in all of these nannies to try and get him in shape. The nannies come in, they do their thing, but they all fail. Cartman is able to drive them all out. Then the mother finds this man called the Dog Whisperer. And this Dog Whisperer, he comes in and he really shapes Cartman up. Cartman turns into this good little boy, doing all his homework on time, eating his dinner without complaint, eating all his veggies and fruits. And really, the Dog Whisperer just gets him on a straight path in life. So now the Dog Whisperer's job is done, right? He has tamed this little beast and now it's time for him to move on. Well, Cartman's mother asks the dog whisperer out on a date, and the guy turns her down. So what does the mother do? She asks Cartman if Cartman would go to see a play with her instead. Cartman tells her that he actually had his whole day lined up. You know, he was going to go do some school work with his friends, working on this project, doing that other thing, and he had his whole day lined up. And so, again, what does the mother do? She tells him that she'll buy him the latest toy if he'll go to the play with her. And the little boy just crumbles. She has successfully devoured her son. Okay, I think we should end the video here. If you like my YouTube content and you want to support me, then please check out my Patreon link pinned in the top comment below. I upload new videos every Friday for my Patreon subscribers that go deeper into my life regarding the 48 laws of power. These videos are a bit more raw and untamed than my usual videos here on YouTube. And if you're a patron of mine already, then I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's people like you that truly make all of this even possible in the first place. I hope you enjoyed this animated video on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law number 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. And remember, you only retain about 10% of what you learned the first time around. So watch this video through a few times and then come back to it again and again in order to really understand and ingrain all of the material into your mind. Thanks, and I'll see you next time for Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law number 12. Oh, jeez. Try that again.